from XM.com. Chief Exec No Less, live for you this afternoon. Welcome back into the fray, Pete. So a failure on Friday. Did Monday offer up anything different come OPEC and a strategy?
Well, good afternoon, Carson. Well, when you look at the market and you look at what's been in the last 24 hours of trading, you'd have to say, yes, there was some moves. They've identified what the key strategies are and, of course, those production cuts. Now, we need to take on board that October was the largest production numbers in OPEC history, nearly just under 34 million barrels per day. And we're only the best part of 29 days from the next meeting. More importantly, you saw WTI fall last night nearly 4% and Brent was down 3%. So we've taken on board the numbers, but also the market had a big correction.
Now, where are we seeing the kind of dust settling on this? Given everything you've just flagged, what's the range you're anticipating?
Well, I think that there's so many issues over the next, say, 4 to 5 days. What happens as far as FBI? Where does Trump position himself? We're all going to see it fold over the next, 7 or 8 days as far as the election. What happens with the FOMC over the next 2 days as far as rates? Are we going to see a rate rise? US dollar strength? All of that in the mixing bowl. I think that crude will probably stay between that 45 to 48. I think there could be further softness to the downside over the next couple of trading sessions.
Pete, Mark Todd here. What about, can you give me a sense of the OPEC-Trump relationship or expected relationship in the event we have a President Trump?
Yes, well, Mark, look, that's a hard one to even think through because we haven't really gone down that pathway. There's been no suggestion that really over the last, say, 3 to 4 months that Trump really stood a chance, and everything was based very much on the long-term relationships that Clinton has and, of course, their party. Now it's a different agenda. There seems to be some swing states out there that he's certainly gaining not only momentum but leading. So after the dust settles, I think this is just going to be fascinating. There is no doubt that that Trump will look for, I think, tax concessions for US producers, and they want to actually produce more. So if that comes into the pie, it's going to be fascinating what effect OPEC has to world supply, and it's just going to be quite an interesting 2017.
I'm not 100% certain, but I think Sarah Palin has put herself up to be the energy minister, and as she is famous for saying, drill, baby, drill. And I imagine that will be the momentum going into the OPEC. So I think there will be some pressure on the price regardless of whatever they do. I think there'll just be that idea that they will be doing something to support the drill, baby, drill.
She's up against T. Boone Pickens, though.
Yeah.
He's got his name on that job, doesn't he?
Whoever gets that job,
I think he might be. I don't know whether T. Boone Pickens would be the man. Come to think of it, I'd say he's fairly well-aged and well-matured. I'd say Palin would be a better candidate for that role.
And what about Jim Rogers as the outlier?
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, he might be the the economic advisor.
Okay.
They might be all apprentices, though, if you want.
That's true. You're
Yes,
right.
very true.
Look, moving beyond that, Peter, also of note that the speculative community in crude going long ahead of OPEC.
Yeah.
Now, that seems almost totally counterintuitive.
Well, it does, but I think that what happened last night really has taken the wind out of the sails on that one. We've got to see over the next couple of days what happens as far as those production cuts, whether there can be something as far as a line in the sand to say, yes, it's going to happen. It's going to stay fairly in the sense of banding together, or are we going to enter, which is traditional 3 or 4 weeks out, a cheating environment, back to the status quo and just, pump as much as you can until we get to November 30 and then look at those headline numbers as the numbers that we want to maintain. We've got to look at what's happened as far as Iraq over the last matter of a year, Iran, of course, what's happening with Nigeria and Libya. They're all also coming back into play and increasing their numbers as far as production.
You've got quite a limited window now of opportunity as a buyer if you go across to bullion now, because on a Fed rate rise, suddenly that impost only goes up. So are you saying the gains would be capped literally to the minute of that Fed announcement?
Well, I think that, no doubt, if you see a rate rise and they talk about it and it's going to happen in December, then the next part will naturally be a stronger US dollar, unless you see some political turmoil, and that could happen as far as the Trump, if Trump gets in, it's a little bit of an unknown as far as US dollar strength and what happens as far as gold. Yeah. And that would certainly be a geopolitical, I think, a nervousness that could make gold, trend higher and through 1,300. But if you don't see the rate rise, I think that gold will probably track higher from here, probably 1290, probably take 1,300 out sometime in November.
Yeah, I think the trouble with some of the defensive assets at the moment is that they don't give you the bang for your bucks, and I think a lot of the market at the moment is reluctant to stay long, but they're forced into this carry that's really killing them. So how much do you think the market is prepared to take a Trump bet? So in other words, short the dollar, because in theory that they are, the rest of the world will sell the dollar. 80% of the world's trade is in the dollar, so you'd think that that will sell it. What happens then to the various, safe havens? Is there any other safe haven other than gold in your mind? Is there something?
Swiss franc,
yen.
Yeah. Certainly Swiss franc. I think there'd be a certain trade as far as yen, but more importantly, it seems to be a nearly an hour-by-hour proposition, Mark, as far as WikiLeaks, what's happening as far as FBI. This seems to be gaining momentum since really Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now we're at Tuesday, our time. We're only a week out. It's there's still so many uncertain components that are going into the mix, and they're being released. And I think that, Voterland is going to be, when we see the polls over the next, say, 48 to 72 hours, I think we'll get a better picture of, actually who is leading. So it's so close to call that really is putting a fear factor into the market and, of course, US dollar. So that really does increase volatility.
The polls didn't help us in the Brexit vote, though. So I think what's happening is an underlying electoral element that has not been picked up. And, it could go to Trump.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And part of it, Pete, I wonder whether you've got thoughts on, it's not even so much, it's definitely the election. Trump or Clinton is obviously a massive, massive issue.
Yes.
But what about the loser's response? How does the US economy becomes the continued vibrancy of the US economy when you've got somebody shouting from the sidelines, I've been robbed, in whatever way, whoever says that they've been robbed? Where is the gracious loser that allows the country to heal? Or do they then have this firecracker? And if they have a firecracker, how does the Fed respond to that?
Well, you saw what Al Gore he certainly wasn't a street fighter like Clinton nor Trump.
No.
So it's going to be fascinating how that plays over the next, 6 to 12 months, because the other side just won't give up. There's no doubting that. You can imagine if Trump loses, what he'll say as far as, Watergate. This is the biggest, injustice to, US democratic system. If Clinton gets in, and what impact that's going to have as far as, her tenure. And then, of course, if Trump gets in and, you've got Clinton yelling from the sidelines, so, tax avoidance, you name it, bankruptcies. Yeah, it's the circus is very much alive and kicking.
Oh, and just think about the democratic response to the iconic institutions like the FBI.
Yes.
Think about what they'll be saying to these are really significant events in their lives. And if they started to have the Democratic Party saying the FBI stole the election, I mean, that's...
You'll look back in history, this is the most magnificent case study, and this election campaign is so unique. It's all its characteristics, every avenue that it, went down. Who would have thought that Trump, 18 months ago would have had a chance in hell to actually be where he is today? And the way it's gaining momentum, it's like a novel. You really couldn't have, written it any better. For the last 7 days are going to be breathtaking.
All right. Somehow, amongst all of that, we go into the softs, these agricultural commodities. Away from all of that, there is potentially going to be a revolt in Java junkie land.
Yeah.
Is there not? Let's end on this note. Talk us through about the coffee crisis looming.
Well, quite simply, Carson, too much consumption and not enough production. So in turn, you've got younger people now enjoying the benefits of coffee and considerably, and they're taking to it from 15 years of age and younger. and this is, you take on board that US is the largest consumer. You've got your ageing population that moves to the teas and moves to other beverages, but certainly, it's really becoming a very, as far as from a consumption base, is something that, 15, 20, 25, 30-year-olds are really enjoying, and we're just being demonstrated as far as, the uptick as far as price over the last, couple of months. It's very, very strong.
Buy the coffee ETF.
Yes.
Arabica, Arabica futures contracts for...
Arabica and, of course, Robusta. But,
okay.
As far as traded on, New York, big price swings and, of course, great for any trader.
Pete, can I ask you very quickly, soybean? What's happening there? I saw the GDP numbers out of the US, 2 billion barrels, 80% I think was going to China.
Yep.
That might be too much, I'm not sure, but what's happening in the soybean space?
Well, soybeans, wheat, corn, it's been a bumper season and been, great as far as growing conditions. And you've got that huge consumption from China, as you mentioned, feedstock. While prices are relatively cheap, you're not seeing a rollover as far as ethanols and so on because of energy, but the very, very big crop productions and, of course, satisfying animal feeds, all forms of protein and, consumption levels are right up as, changing dietary habits. So at the moment, it's been a very good season to be a farmer, and the way it's looking, you might even be 17 could be another bumper.
Don't tell that to the farmers.
Yep.
They're always
Drive another
unhappy.
Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Or Tesla.
Or a Maserati, or was it Tesla, as you say. Nice to talk, Pete, as always.
Thank you, Carson.
XM.com CEO Pete McGuire. Channel all of that